Oh, hello everybody. It's Chris Smith at the YNTAAY Minis, and I am doing our tops and bottoms list for tops and bottoms movies of 2020. And this week we're doing the bottoms. Now, 2020 was a strange year because of the great pandemic. We didn't see a lot of movies in the theater, but we did see a lot of movies. And at number 10 on our bottoms list, and mind you, these are no offense to the people who made them. I'm sure some people loved these movies, but for some reason, they didn't sit well with me. Now, at number 10, it's Antebellum from the producer of Get Out and Us. Now, Antebellum is nothing like Get Out or Us, which were both on my tops list the years they came out. This one stars Janelle Monáe, and it's a very strange movie. It has a good concept because it's set in two seemingly different time periods. Back in the antebellum slavery days, with Confederate soldiers treating the people who work on the plantations just monstrously. And it's set in modern day Louisiana with an author who is named Veronica, and in slave days, she is her character is Eden, and it sort of goes back and forth. There's a twist. I won't mention what it is because I think you should still see it. Um, Now, Janelle was very good in the movie, but my problem with it was it felt like it knew that it was a movie. Like I could almost see the shots set up and the dolly roll through, the camera on the dollies rolling through on the little track and the people were so staged. It just kept taking me out of the action in the movie, and it was like this movie knows it's a movie, and it seemed like a lot of the actors knew that they were, this is my shot. It was just too aware of itself. But the concept was so good, and it was one of the movies that was first canceled when the pandemic hit, and it was supposed to come out in April of that year. And I was very upset. So I did get to see it on video on demand, and you should watch it. Now, at number 9 is An American Pickle with Seth Rogen. Now, Seth Rogen, who I'm a big fan of, he plays this man named Herschel Greenbaum. And in 1919, he's working at a pickle factory. And he falls into a vat and gets brined for he stays in there for 100 years. They shut down the factory. I don't know why they didn't tear it down and build condominiums or anything over 100 years, but they didn't. And these kids stumble into the factory and they somehow open up this vat and he pops out. He's been preserved for all this time. So he meets up with his only living relative, his great grandson, Ben, also played by Seth Rogen. And wackiness ensues. Now, it's like old world meeting new world and what family actually means. Now, again, a good concept. And this one actually had a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, but 46% of the audience liked it. So there was something that left a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't think it was the pickles. But I saw it on HBO Max, and it's there waiting for you if you should want to see it. Now, at number 8 is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Now, I saw this on Netflix, and I was very excited about it. Look at this crazy poster. It stars Jesse Plemons of Fargo, Jessie Buckley, she's the girl, off Fargo from this season, and it also has Toni Collette in it. And the girl is not, like I said, she's not planning to end things via suicide. She has been dating this guy for 7 weeks, and she's thinking of ending things with their relationship, but he's taking her away that weekend to visit his parents at a remote farm. And it's very strange. It's almost like a Twin Peaks type nightmare. There's some, and I love, and this is from Charlie Kaufman, who brought us like Being John Malkovich and very strange movies. I always love his work. But this time there was something that I was just so removed from it. I didn't know if I should love it or scream or what. Um, ugh. But, maybe it's supposed to have a nightmare feeling. Yes. Now, you're wondering why I even saw this one. The Gentleman. This is a Guy Ritchie written and directed movie. It is really actually the only movie on the list of 10 that I saw in the theater in 2020 because this came out early in the year. I think I saw it in February, maybe? Well, anyway. It had murder, it had marijuana, it had gangsters, blackmail, bribery, a lot of tough guys. It had a really good cast. Matthew McConaughey, Michelle Dockery, Colin Farrell, Hugh Grant. But I just did not like these characters. And I should know better than to go to a movie that's really not my type of movie. Otherwise, it will end up on the bottoms list, even if it's a good movie. And it has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 84% of the audience loved it. So, go figure. Now, at number 6 is Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. Now, it's nothing like the TV series, really, that was on ABC starring Ricardo Montalban as Mr. Rourke. This one has Michael Pena. Is it Pena? As Mr. Rourke. He is no Mr. Rourke. I'm sorry. You're no Mr. Rourke. And this is no Fantasy Island. But, it wasn't that it was a bad movie. There were parts of it that I enjoyed. But how dare you, Blumhouse, put Blumhouse's Fantasy Island on it like you own it? Well, maybe you do. I don't know. No. Just no. It had a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes. Isn't that crazy? And there's a little twist in it. There's a little thing that they sort of reference tattoo, and I won't give anything away because I don't think you'll care. But I do, like I said, I love this poster with the island that looks like a skull head. Oh. Okay. Now at number 5 on the list is The Grudge. This is like the 4th in the series of the American version of The Grudge, which is based on the Japanese horror movie. And, it had a good cast. It has John Cho, Betty Gilpin, Lynn Shay, and Jackie Weaver are in it. It's like a ghost story. It's set in Tokyo. There, again, something very icky about this movie. Not necessarily that it's a bad movie, but it's just no. And it got a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. 23% of the audience liked it. So that tells you something. But it made $49.5 million, and the budget was only 10 to 14. So I bet you'll see some more Grudge. At number 4 is The Turning. And it is about a nanny who's hired, a governess to be hired to take care of these 2 kids. Very strange kids without friends. And they live in this haunted mansion. Their parents have been killed in a car accident. And, of course, like I said, the place is haunted. And it's based on the ghost story from 1898, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. And I didn't even realize this. It's set in 1994 for some reason. And I just thought by the end of it, it has a very unsatisfying ending that's confusing. And you're like, what? And by the end of it, you're like, I wasted 94 minutes on this thing. And it also came out in January, like The Grudge and all these movies that came out at the beginning of 2020. They're not good, and most of them are horror that are on my list. And I love a horror movie, but make a good horror movie if you're going to make one. Don't make like Underwater, the Kristen Stewart movie that's at number 3. But isn't that a beautiful looking poster? It's very claustrophobic. Kristen Stewart is in it, and T.J. Miller, and other people I didn't know. It is set 7 miles under the sea. It's like a research facility and drilling facility down on the ocean floor. There's like an earthquake. It destroys most of the facility, floods it, and a few people are able to escape to go to another facility. They're trying to walk on the ocean floor, but there are creatures out there. I do admire the fact that Kristen Stewart will pick different kinds of movies in her career. She could do a serious one. She did a really good one called Happiest Season this year. She did Charlie's Angels in 2019. And yeah, so she does mix it up a little bit. And I like Kristen Stewart a lot more than I used to. I used to not like her movies at all. But she does make interesting choices. This movie was not very good for me, though, because I'm claustrophobic, and so it is Under the Sea. Now, at number 2 is a sequel. It's Brahms the Boy Two. It's the sequel to The Boy, which came out in 2016. Now, it seems like I liked The Boy better than I liked Brahms 2 The Boy, which stars Katie Holmes as a mother who, along with her husband, moves their son, their young son, to a remote house in the country after the boy and his mother experience a terrible home invasion. And the boy is so traumatized that he becomes mute. Well, when they move to the country, the trouble really starts because he finds this cute doll, Brahms, buried in the woods underground and in a shallow grave, of course. So the boy finds him, and Brahms sort of talks to him and is sort of bringing him out of his shell, but in a weird way. So, and you know, trouble is afoot anytime you find an old doll buried. It's not like my Willie Talk and All My Wonderful Children that they only bring joy. But scary dolls like Annabelle and Brahms, no. Yeah, this movie wasn't very good at all. And again, it had a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. 44% of the audience liked it, so at least they liked it more than the critics did. But it was very slow. And no, just no. It also came out in February 2020. We should have known by the movies that were in the theaters what was going to happen in 2020 because everything went to hell. Now, this next movie is the worst movie that I saw in 2020, and it is, what was I thinking even watching it? The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. It was in theaters on January 10th. It technically came out in December in 2019, 2019, like in the UK, but the US release wasn't until 2020, so it gets to count for 2020 for our bottoms list. The worst movie of the year, it's just the height of tackiness. Now, this one has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 3% of the audience liked it. And it looks at what might have happened if the killer of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman was actually not O.J. Simpson, but Glenn Edward Rogers, who's a serial killer. He was the cross-country killer, and I guess he is a real serial killer. And I guess somebody, look at that poster, so disturbing. Somebody thought that it was a good idea to do this movie, and it had Mina Savari in it, and Nick Stahl. Mina Savari, she's a good actress, and it's not that she was bad in this movie. The whole movie was bad that it even existed. It just felt like somebody online had called it grave robbing. No, it was just the worst thing. I felt so dirty after watching it, and I felt so bad. But yeah, that really made me wish that I could go back and re-examine An American Pickle, or even The Gentleman. So yes, those are the bottom 10 movies for me. You might be a big fan of some of them. I'm sure there are Gentleman fans out there that are going to be like, send, and send me an angry comment, which I'll just delete. But yes, so those are the bottoms. And now that the movies have come back, let's hope we get some good ones in 2021. Okay, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.